Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our week with Felipe Engineer-Manriquez. Hey, Felipe. Welcome back.
Hey, Vasco. It's good to be back.
With Felipe, we're talking about Agile in construction. Well, I should say that it's Agile and Lean in construction. You'll see why in a second. But today is the change day here on the podcast, and we want to look at how you specifically bring Lean and Agile methods into a construction project or organization. So share with us, Felipe, what's your change strategy?
Yeah, my first strategy, and I tell this explicitly to teams, I borrow from Hippocrates, who's famous, one of the early healers in ancient human history. And he's famous for the Hippocratic Oath. And I tell teams, my first rule is that I will do no harm. By working with me in these different methods, I promise you that I will do no harm. And if something goes wrong, I will take full responsibility with leadership, and I'll put my neck is literally on the line. And I use, depending on my audience, Vasco, I'll use much more colorful language so that it is clear that I'm not just like a seagull coming in, shitting on people and telling people they're doing things wrong and that we're going to do things completely differently. That is not the approach. My biggest challenge is to get people to disrupt the patterns that they're currently using and to do something different. And so I come at it systematically with do no harm first. And there's always obvious things where people are doing wasteful things that don't add value to the goals that they're trying to achieve. And so some of the first things I do to implement these new strategies is to help the team let things go, stop doing things. Every single project team in Lean, we learn about waste, and even like it's obsessively too much. And in industrial engineering practices, we learn there's three major causes of all wastes. There's variation, overburden, and then what everybody just knows, the 8 wastes or the 7 wastes, depending on who you learn it from. But there's typically 8 wastes, and we use the acronym DOWNTIME: defects, overproduction, waiting, transportation, inventory, motion, excess processing. It's an acronym, DOWNTIME. Those different categories all represent not providing value. And in the construction industry, downtime represents something like a burn of 60 to 80% of every dollar does not add value from the customer's perspective, which is horrible. Where other industries, like, and I'll say on average in construction, that percentage that we deliver as value is around 15 to 20%. So from just an easy math perspective, for every dollar spent, only 15 to 20 cents of value reaches the owner and the stakeholders downstream, and the rest is burned up in the system of producing the thing. And it's crazy bad. Whereas like in manufacturing, it's above 50% of value that reaches, like, so more than 50 cents. And in agriculture, it's like the opposite. 90 cents of every dollar spent translates into getting you food. In agriculture, it's very efficient. Our industry is like terribly inefficient. So my approach is to stop doing things. There's these 8 major categories that we can stop doing. And as we stop doing those things, it creates excess capacity for the teams. And it's only then, when we're in this excess capacity mode, that I'll introduce new processes.
So tell me a little bit more before we go into the new process and how you introduce those. What are some of the typical things that you find free up that excess capacity? Like a couple of examples just to make it concrete for the audience.
Yeah. One is big batch processing. People like to wait to do things. So like, and we laugh about this all the time. Like, well, even something as simple as making a commitment on an action item in a meeting. The default answer in construction, and anyone who's listening to this that has any type of experience in construction, this will immediately trigger them. If somebody's asked to make a commitment, the default answer is within 2 weeks. Everybody always answers within 2 weeks. And so when you hear that, and like, we'll look at like, what does it actually take? And we deconstruct that. And so the waste associated with the in 2 weeks answer is waiting. Waiting is the waste that's in play, but the subtle thing that's happening is big batch processing and multitasking. People are doing a lot of things and they're finishing nothing. And so when they make these commitments, they're hedging their bet because they know that they have these other things distracting them that they have to get done, but they don't want to not please another human being. So they want to be polite, and they'll say 2 weeks. Now, nothing in the world that I know of, no natural human process actually takes 14 calendar days to do, but it is the number one answer that people make. And so when you pick apart what it actually is, then you can reduce the batch size to something more appropriate and get a much better answer. It's never 14 days. Maybe it's 13, but it's not 14. And so like that waiting is terrible. That and that's a huge thing. And when I teach people the downtime, I play like a short little video that comes from software development, and it's hilarious because all the examples in the video, it's a video from a software company called Orbus, and it's the 8 wastes of lean, and it's an amazing video that shows the downtime, and like it's like a 3-minute video. But once people see the 8 wastes, and all on like, I feel like every example is a construction example in their software video. It's hilarious. You can't not see it. And that's what you're going to use to implement. You're going to use that you decrease the waste, and then you create the capacity to do the changes. And so I survey people. The number one answer when I say what waste is affecting you, waiting is number one. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to a design engineers, architects, or if I'm talking to foremen or anybody in any trade. Waiting is the number one thing.
That's what the system produces, right? Waiting.
Exactly. Waiting, because the WIP is too high. The WIP is the work in process is too high. The higher the work in process, the less throughput your system will give you. So the waiting becomes exponentially longer and unnecessary.
So you've freed up the capacity. What do you do next?
Yeah. Then the first thing I do is I make things transparent, make things visible, increase transparency. Step one. So like there was a team I work with that was working on a job. This is the classic, every day you work, they lose a day. This job already had lawyers engaged. They're going to claim, they're going to litigate, and they're going to litigate against the city. This was the city project. They're making an ambulatory emergency response center. You call 911 in the city, and this building answers the call and deploys emergency resources and other things. And they'd worked 2 years, and they still had another. It was supposed to be a 1-year project. It was 2 years later, not done. And I go to the team, and this is like all the classic patterns are in place, and the team was convinced that the people they hired to do the project were incompetent. And so the biggest challenge there
that's an easy one to believe, right? Given that it was a 1-year project that had lasted already 2 years.
And I had 1 more year to finish. So it was like it needed from the time they realized that they were getting lawyers involved, it was going to take 2 years to finish. And so we implemented a simple thing. We made visible the next milestone goal that the team was going to achieve, which at the case was like, it was like some putting up some priority walls in the building. And these were like drywall walls, like drywall paint. And so we just made that visible. We spent five minutes in the meeting describing what it means for these walls to be finished on a whiteboard. And I hand wrote the date, and I put it on the wall. And I told the superintendent, like in Europe, these are site managers, superintendent, same in the United States, superintendent. And I said, just put this on the wall. And if people ask, you just answer the questions, leave the answers there. We answered it as a group with the other lead foreman from the meeting in a 5-minute meeting. What happened was 2 weeks later, they met their schedule and improved the schedule by 4 days. And the superintendent said, never in the entire time I've worked here have we ever met a schedule commitment or did better. So it was the first time ever. And the only thing we did was we spent 5 minutes. Now, what that thing I was actually doing with them was planning. We were planning and we were defining where a future condition where we wanted to be.
But it was like real-time planning, always adjusting to the reality of that moment.
Yeah, and to make that change happen, to even get to the point where I can stand with this team and have this 5-minute conversation, I had to bribe them with pizza. I bought the team pizza, and it wasn't like I didn't pay them out money. Like the company let me reimburse, but we fed people, and in the time that they were eating, that's when we did the 5-minute conversation defining what it was, and they made the time up.
Yeah, and I really like that approach of, okay, first, free up capacity, because otherwise you're always going to increase the pressure and it's only going to make things worse. And then make things visible. Trust that people know what to do. And they usually do if you make the things visible. And that 5-minute meeting that you just discussed, I don't know if that's what you thought when you did that, but did you introduce that as kind of an analog to the daily Scrum?
Yeah, that team they weren't doing it daily. They weren't doing a daily huddle. Like in construction, it's very common for teams to do these daily huddles, usually for safety reasons. There's like a lot of like legal reasons why they have to review these things that they're going to do. And a lot of projects hijack that safety meeting and make it a production meeting where they're pushing dates on people. So that was happening on that project, but they were not actually planning. They were just pushing. They're using those meetings to push. And I was observing the team and I realized like, I don't think people are clear on what needs to be done. So we didn't get to the point where we had to do the daily, just making the dates visible and letting them input that pattern first. I told them like in a future state, like there's a couple more things we're going to do. In reality, it's like 25 more things I wanted them to do, but I was like, I just keep it simple. Like it's going to be a couple more changes. And what ends up happening, Vasco, is that we make these changes, we stabilize, and then we introduce the next change because the capacity changes again. And we're back to theory of constraints that I think we talked about like on Tuesday, where your system, as it stabilizes and you make a change to a bottleneck, the whole system changes again. You have to find a different bottleneck will emerge.
Exactly. That's so well expressed. It's like, don't try to do all of the things at the same time, because when you do one thing, the system changes.
Yeah. And once it stabilized and we saw that was an issue, the next thing to change was to put a focus on getting people paid. The change orders were a problem. That was the next big thing to change that released, so the team could actually get paid for work that they had done because the design was ever evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that change approach, and I'm sure we can learn a lot from that also in the software side. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, Felipe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.